Bun găsit tuturor! Sunt Alina Dima, gazda dumneavoastră. Continentul nostru este de o bogăție inestimabilă atunci când vine vorba despre locuri inedite în care putem călători și putem să descoperim o mulțime de lucruri extrem de interesante legate de cultură, artă, dar chiar și distracții. Pentru că deja la Travel Mix v-ați obișnuit cu faptul că vă aducem în atenție o mulțime de povești extrem de interesante și captivante despre țările lumii. De această dată vom face un popas în Croația, o splendidă țară cu ieșire la Marea Adriatică, și alături de noi astăzi, în această călătorie inițiatică, aș îndrăzni să spun, este excelența sa, doamna ambasador Maria Capitanovici. Hello and thank you so much for having us here today at the embassy and for being able to have such a wonderful and delightful conversation about Croatia. I am quite sure that our viewers are going to be very pleased with all the interesting information that we are all going to find out today.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present my country.
Croatia is definitely a surprising country. It's a mixture between cultures and even civilizations. So to begin with, I think that the first natural question to ask would be for you to kindly give us a short overview of the history of Croatia and the major events that led to Croatia of the present.
So Croatia, basically, it's a country situated, as you actually said very correctly, between different, I would say, civilization or cultural influences, poles. On one side, it's coast Croatia, seaside, which is predominantly Mediterranean Croatia. Then we have the continental one. The continental one is pretty Central European part. And then we have also parts bordering with our neighbors on the eastern bank. And this part is attached also to the Balkan culture. So as you can see, a small country, but due to this very specific shape of the country, we are subject to different influences. We have witnessed the Greeks' influences, the Roman influences. For instance, Roman ruled the area for 5 centuries. And Emperor Diocletian from Roman times is the one that has had a palace in today's Split, for instance. One of the periods that definitely shaped Croatia in terms of history, but also culture, arts, it's for sure the Renaissance period. This is the period in which the Dubrovnik Republic was in its, I would say, flourishing time. Dubrovnik, it's the city that used to be for centuries a republic and used to have very vibrant commercial relations with Venetian Republic and also with the Ottomans. And why I'm stressing specifically the Renaissance time, because in that period they were basically laid down foundations for many things that further develop in science, in literature. For instance, the first novel were written in that time, or the painters. So that's why this period was very much prophylactic and very important for the further development of Croatia in terms of history and its culture. Nowadays, Croatia is gained the independence from previous state, from Yugoslavia, in the 90s, in the early 90s. And we celebrated the National Day very recently on the 30th of May. So it was not so far away. And this is the date when first multi-party modern Croatian parliament was constituted. And gaining the independence from the previous state, there were quite, I would say, difficult steps at that time, basically because there was a conflict, and we had to cope also with this. And only in, I would say, 2000, the things were in a way resumed, and we started to work on, let's say, development of our international goals. We were working even before, but from 2000 there were the premises and to start to work on European integration path, on how to join the NATO. Those were our main goals at that time, and we managed to fulfill both of these goals.
Psychologically, physically, and even spiritually, the travel experience would definitely enrich each individual. And I think that this would definitely be one of the most pleasant and most beautiful experiences that anyone could live. And Croatia is part of this beautiful circle because it has so many beautiful things to offer and to show. And this is what I would love to talk about right now. Even if it were to mention the medieval cities on the Adriatic coastline, which are absolutely mesmerizing, or the national parks that are so rich in flora and fauna, or even the small islands on the Adriatic Sea. Could you tell me a few things about the top tourist sites in Croatia?
Yes, actually the top tourist sites are few. It's not easy to, let's say, to mention all of them, but I will try to, let's say, give you just some of the highlights, which doesn't mean that the others, which I will not mention right now, are not worthy also to be seen very much. As I said, also, it's small but geographically very diverse area. And as a first thing I would maybe mention, you mentioned national parks. We have quite a few national parks. One of these is Plitvice Lakes National Park. It's one of the worldwide known, I would say. It's not only Europe, but we have a lot of also tourists from other parts of the world. And it's basically, it encompasses the waterfalls, beautiful waterfalls, small lakes of the blue emerald colors, and the forest with many, I would say, rare animal species. You can see, like, I don't know, eagles, falcons, even bears. It's not actually that nowadays you can see them, but they are there. But there are so many tourists visiting the Plitvice Lakes. Then, for sure, when we talk about the parks, national parks, I would mention Contacte National Parks. It's basically the area of a number of small islands. It's like 30 kilometers long and 13 kilometers wide. It's the Contacte area. And it's very well known for those who like sailing, because you can do sailing around these islands with crystal clear waters. It's not inhabited. You can find only a small cottages, which once upon a time were used for those, let's say, for the purposes of taking care of the animals and so on. Now, these days, these small cottages actually have been transformed into small restaurants with a variety of gastronomic offer. So you can eat there, of course, fish. Then, when it comes to cultural historical sites, of course, Split. It's the capital of Dalmatia, and it's really worthy to see. For instance, the palace of the Roman Imperium Diocletian is there, which is very well preserved. Then you have a lot of, apart from the sightseeings of that you can see from our history, like from the Roman time, but also from the other era. Then in Split you can enjoy very many festivals during the summertime. There are many as well restaurants where you can enjoy the Mediterranean food. Then, of course, it has to be mentioned Dubrovnik. Dubrovnik is like a world-known, I would say, place. It used to be a republic, the autonomous republic, during many centuries. And nowadays it's the most attractive destination for the tourists. Many of them are also coming with the cruisers. Many cruisers stop on their Mediterranean tour. They stop in front of Dubrovnik. You will see many cultural sites. Like one of among the others, you can there are the walls. Just let me mention Istria. Istria is peninsula on the North Adriatic, which is a little bit. It's also the sea destination where you can see to go to when you can spend your summer holidays. But it's also a destination where you can spend very nice holidays in inland Istria. You can do the bicycle tours, you can do walkings, you can do also the wine tours because it's wine making area. And one of the gem of Istrian Peninsula is, for instance, the city of Rovinj, which is one picturesque city. You can see very many influences of the Venetian time. Of course, visit the capital of Zagreb, which is as a typical capital, it's a vibrant city. Just to mention that 80% of the population, Croatian population, lives in Zagreb. So, of course, as many other capitals, a lot of museum, cultural events, as well sport events. And it's worthy also to mention that Zagreb is also the economic engine of Croatia, like it's the case with many other capitals in Europe and elsewhere. When it comes to the inland Croatia, maybe it should be also mentioned that we have cities.
After visiting all these interesting sites, I think that one would wonder what would be some fun facts less known about Croatia and the Croatians.
We can mention a couple of things. Maybe one of the most interesting is the dog called upon Dalmatia. It's a Dalmatian dog. And I think
that has been made famous thanks to the animation movie, The
Disney
101
film,
Dalmatians.
Exactly. 101 Dalmatian has been very made known. And this Dalmatian dog is, of course, it's white with this with the black spots. Second curiosity, which I can mention, it's the necktie or the cravat. Actually, today we call it cravat. It's the tie. It was named after the Croatian soldiers that were wearing this necktie at the time of 30 years war. Or, for instance, the first parachute was invented by the Croatian inventors. Pencil, Penkala, which is worldwide no brand of the pencil. It also invented by Penkala. Penkala is the name of the gentleman that invented this kind of pencil.
Now, moving towards the world-famous personalities that come from Croatia, because the Croatians can really brag about some of their personalities.
For the first, I will mention Ivan Meštrović, is a sculptor. I'm mentioning him as a first because there are many connections with Romania when it comes to this sculpture, because he was the worldwide known. And for instance, the monument, the peace monument that nowadays you can see in front of the United Nations building was made by him. He is the one that do it. But for instance, in your case, only here in Bucharest, you have the statue of your Prime Minister Brătianu that has been made by Meštrović. The first statue of Carol I, which is in Calea Victoriei in front of the University Library, was also done by the Meštrović. One, of course, of the genius mind that should be for sure mentioned is Nikola Tesla. He is the one that basically designed the modern alternating current electricity supply system.
I would say that we could invite all these personalities to the table and I would like to talk about the traditional Croatian dishes, also accompanied by local wine. Could you tell us something more about the traditional recipes that are known in Croatia?
The traditional cuisine varies, as well as the country's geography is varied. So basically, the cuisine follows the pattern of different parts of Croatia. So, of course, the coast Croatia, seaside Croatia is pretty, it's a Mediterranean cuisine area. Basically based on fish, on many vegetables, fruits, and what needs to be stressed is the olive oil. And olive oil is produced all over the area of the seaside area, both in Istria and Dalmatia. And since our independence now on, the Croatian producers can prize themselves to win many international prizes when it comes to the olive oil. And wine production, of course. In the Mediterranean area, the wine production is also distributed between Istria and between Dalmatia. In Istria, predominantly white wine, like Pinot, if we can find. And in Dalmatian part, we can find exquisite sorts of red wine. Continental Croatia, in particular, when it comes to the cuisine, you can find different kinds of pies. But actually, in your country as well, it's pita or placinta, as you call it. Exactly. And you can find different, made of pastries and of cheese. It can be salted or it can be sweet. And then dishes based on meat, different kinds of meat.
Already mentioned earlier a few things regarding Croatians and Romanians and the relations between us historically and traditionally. Do you find similarities between our two people? And I would also love to ask you, what is it that you like most about Romania and the Romanians?
Yes, of course there are similarities. We also belong to, as I said before, Croatia has this Central European part of Croatia, and you have as well very, very many characteristics of this Central European area. And here I found many similarities. Also, I find also similarities in the cuisine, as I mentioned before, this all kinds of pastries and sweets. I have to say that Romania is a champion of preserving the folk tradition, because I noticed that there are many, let's say, also TV shows with the folk music and let's say, cultural organization wearing these folk dress, traditional dresses, and very much taking care of it. But nevertheless, this is also where I found the similarities, that we are very much concentrated and focused on preserving our traditions.
The new coronavirus has definitely spoiled everyone's plans, at least for the first half of 2020. But we are all looking forward for the summer season and also for the second half of the year, that most probably, and of course we are all going to cross our fingers, it's going to get better. So my question regarding this specific topic would be, which are the measures that Croatia is taking in order to relaunch the tourist season, and also when will it be able to accommodate Romanian tourists also?
Yes, Croatia is taking a set of measures in order to prepare the touristic sector for, let's say, the new situation. Because the distancing standards have to be observed, the hygiene standards has to be observed, which doesn't mean that they didn't have been observed before, but now we need to put even more cautiousness in let's say, when it comes to the facilities. In this sense, the public health institutions are providing the hotels and the touristic accommodation systems with necessary, let's say, public health measures. Croatia is gradually opening to the countries. The first tourists that arrived in Croatia are mainly those who are coming from the neighboring countries, which is normal. And because it allows them to come by car, which in these circumstances is the most, let's say, safest way to come to the country.
Mrs. Ambassador, thank you so much again for having accepted our invitation and proposal to discuss about Croatia. And I believe that Croatia is definitely a very good idea anytime.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me. And I hope that after this very pleasant talk, we will have, let's say, Romanian tourists in Croatia. As well, we as the embassy will work also to attract the Croatian tourists to come to see Romania.
Dragii mei, iată cât de multe splendori are de oferit Croația, cât de multe informații interesante am aflat astăzi, însă sunt absolut convinsă că oricând ne dorim să trăim realmente experiența descoperirii unei țări noi, trebuie să o facem la persoana întâi. Așadar, nu mă credeți neapărat pe cuvânt, ci gândiți-vă să vă pregătiți vacanța din această vară, de ce nu, în Croația. Până la următoarea noastră întâlnire însă, nu uitați să vă transformați viața într-o poveste frumoasă.